Hey guys, another reviewer here. I know I used Swords and Serpents as a joke last month in my Dead Space review to kind of continue the running gag that I've been maintaining since the very beginning of the show.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Swords and Serpents!
Now it's time to actually review this game so we can put this gag to bed and make room for longer, dumber, more drawn-out jokes. Swords and Serpents, the 1990 fantasy RPG for the Nintendo Entertainment System, developed by Interplay Entertainment and published by Acclaim Entertainment. Now, being an RPG for the NES, the story's probably going to be mostly non-existent, so just in case, let's check the manual. You're going down. It's dark. It's dangerous. It's deadly. The story basically goes that you're a party of 4 adventurers that hardly know each other, but are going down there to face the serpent for one reason or another. The serpent at the bottom of this haunted maze has brought terror to the countryside for hundreds of years. He makes crops go bad, the milk turn sour, and the earth heave with foul indignation. He causes the Wi-Fi to go out, he causes no one to like me, he causes me to always lose socks in the fucking dryer. When you start the game, you're given the option to play with 1, 2, or 4 players. Then, you're given the option to create your own party or use an existing party. The pre-made characters are Iago, Mask, Ajax, and Aaron, but their stats are terrible, so I'm not going to use them. You're able to roll for your stats and keep the ones you want. You can get anywhere between 2 and 14 points in a stat, and all 3 are rolled simultaneously. Obviously, you're just going to keep rolling until you get a 14 in a character's primary stat and double digits in the others. You then choose a class from Magician, Warrior, or Thief. The pre-existing party had 2 Magicians, a Thief, and a Warrior, so we'll stick with that. Having a backup Magician isn't that bad of an idea, being if your Magician dies, you're going to have an awful lot of trouble healing the rest of your party. But we'll get into that whenever we actually start playing the game. The names for these characters don't really fit, so let's try something different. Iago is the first in the party and is described as a strange magician from the swamplands, but he just looks old, so that's what we'll name him. Next is Mask, that claims his lust for treasure is the only reason for joining. Being a thief, he obviously relies on his cunning, so we'll call him, yeah, there we go. Ajax is a warrior from the north, taking revenge on the serpent for bringing ruin to his people. He looks like his diet is loaded with protein, so we'll go with fish. Finally, there's Aaron. She's a mystic from the realm of shadows. Her motivation is a mystery, but I can tell you why she's in this game. Your goal is to collect the powerful ruby artifacts of the legendary Ruby Warrior. Not until they are retrieved can the serpent be challenged. That is one catchy tune. Once you start the actual game, you notice that you have a 3D first-person view of the dungeon in front of you, a top-down map, and the details of your party. Don't trust this map for shit. There are 16 levels and it can only remember 2 at a time, so after that it starts erasing them, which makes backtracking a huge pain in the ass, and there is a lot of backtracking. A lot of backtracking. I had to get out the mechanical pencils and the graphing paper to make my own maps. You're told early on that temples are on the 1st, 5th, and 10th levels, which means that while you're walking around looking for shit on the first 4 levels, you'll be returning to the first floor. What they don't tell you is that it's the only armory you'll have access to until level 5 as well. Apparently every time this guy shows up, it's the same guy, despite the several colors he shows up in. He gives you lots of important advice, like, your destiny is to slay the dragon. Wait, dragon? I thought it was a serpent, hence the name Swords and Serpents. This game isn't Daggers and Dragons. Or something else very close to that owned by Wizards of the Coast. Stop ruining magic! When the hermit speaks to you or you stumble across other messages, you have to press the A button to make it go away so you can continue playing. And these fucking things are everywhere. And you have to deal with them every single time you walk over these spots. Every fucking time. Even dialogue that has to do with fights that you have to do to progress, that once you beat them, they're gone. Okay, so there's one bit of dialogue that once you see it, it goes away for good. So if they could do that, then why don't they do that with all of the other ones? Are they trying to hold your hand for the hints you could miss, when you can't possibly miss them, when the only way to get rid of them is to press A, a button that in this mode doesn't do anything fucking else? You press up to go in the direction the arrow is pointing, Press down to go in the opposite direction, and left or right to change the direction the arrow is pointing. You press B to choose a magician to cast a magic spell, select to get into the menu, and start to save the game. The A button does nothing except make these messages go away. They make you make your own maps, but God forbid you take the logical leap and decide to put these hints on those maps. You know what? While I'm thinking about it, let's get some other shit out of the way here now, too. The save system. There isn't one. It's a password system, and it's the most horrific fucking thing I can imagine. Look at this shit! You have a password for each character, and then a password for the game. You even have to put in the names of the characters when you put in their passwords if you change their names from the default douchebags. This is fucking ridiculous. But there's an even worse aspect to this password system. The experience points you've gained for your next level is reset to fucking 0. When you reach a new experience level, your points are reset to 0, so you can start gaining points towards your next level. But when you save the game and come back to it, regardless of how many experience points you had when you turned off the game, it's back to 0. I would rather leave my Nintendo turned on than deal with this fucktastrophe. If that's not bad enough, it always starts you at the closest temple whether you reached it yet or not. This can become a problem when you start a stage with a temple, but then turn off the game. I stopped at the entrance of level 5 while I was capturing footage, then when I started again, put in all the passwords, I ended up at the temple next to the stairs to the next level. I considered just saying fuck it and progressing through the game, but the risk of missing something whenever your quest is basically to find the 7 ruby artifacts is too high. And as it turned out, the section I was in with the temple was walled off from the rest. The only way to get here was with a spell called Pass Wall, which I didn't get because I didn't play through the fucking stage! If it wasn't for this zoom tube that took me back to the first level, I would have probably had to start over. Zoom tubes take you up levels rapidly and usually land on levels with temples. Unfortunately, they only go in one direction, so you have to find your way back to the stage you were on. Teleporters are similar, but they go down several levels, or different locations of the same level. Fuck it. They really missed an opportunity to say that this was an RPG version of Chutes and Ladders and call it Zoom Tubes and Teleporters. The manual tells you that while it doesn't save your maps or your experience points, it does save a large amount of other factors, including puzzles you've solved. Not all doors you've unlocked stay unlocked after saving, even ones that are crucial to getting to the next stage. This is a little more than a minor annoyance, being most of the puzzles in this game are nothing but stepping on 3 or 4 tiles in a certain order to unlock doors. I don't really mean to make this whole video about the password and save system, much like I got caught up with the Dead Space 3 crafting system, but holy fucking shit, this whole thing is just a big lump of fecal matter. In the menu, you can choose one character or your entire group. Under your entire group, you see what stage you're on, how much gold your party has, your party's experience points, and experience level. If you choose one character, you can look at your character attributes, inventory, or last resort. Oh god, there's a Dr. Kevorkian button! This option just kills you and sends you back to the nearest temple. You lose all your gold, which really means that there's no penalty here for dying. I'll get into why gold is completely useless later. Under character attributes, you can view your character's stats. In your inventory, you can see what your characters are holding. You're going to be doing this a lot because your characters can only hold 6 items each, and some random encounters reward your characters with items. Oh yeah, there are random encounters in this game, and the encounter rate is fucking high. God damn it! You're just trying to get to the temple. Fuck! We're back to the level you were exploring before you left to go to the temple. Come on! During these random encounters, you can just keep jamming the A button to keep attacking. Which enemy you hit is completely random, which means you can have a huge group of monsters bearing down on you, and you've consistently done damage to them, but the damage was spread out so much that they're all still alive, despite having been dealt enough damage to have killed most of them, which means they're all still dealing damage to your party. You have the option to be more tactful by hitting the B button when it's a magician's turn, signified by their name flashing green, and cast spells. Normally you'll only do this for healing spells because all the other spells suck absolute ass and can even fizzle. You can also press select to run away. You can have individual members of the group leave battle, but having everyone running away is fucking horrible. You stop attacking, but that doesn't stop you from getting attacked, and you don't successfully leave battle until everyone runs away. Then the game calls you a coward. After dealing with a Halloween ghost using Sith lightning on me, I don't need this shit from you, game. Your character's names flash when it's their turn, and they blink hit or miss when they're being attacked. Combat sequence seems to be random, but I think it's determined to each round by your character's agility, and you have to wait for all attacks to resolve before you get to do anything. The enemies just interrupt your attacks, and you have to wait. There are some enemies with sweeper attacks that hit your whole party at once, but still have to go through them one by one. This becomes time-consuming. You can also use the D-pad to choose to attack different parts of the monster. I was never aware of this before, and when I tried it, there was really no indication that it was making any difference. I think my favorite part of the game is what happens when you defeat your enemies. This is a trippy effect, and it's really colorful in contrast to the dark, plain colors of the dungeon. After defeating your enemies, you get gold and experience, and the gold is completely useless. The only thing you use gold for is weapons and armor at armories on stages 1, 5, and 10. But if you're battling enemies at all, you're already getting better stuff than what you can buy. The only thing that was actually worth buying for me was the +2 sword in the first armory that cost 750 gold apiece that I got for cunt and fish. By the time I got to the second armory, the only thing I needed was a single helmet that costs 100 gold, and I needed absolutely nothing from the armory on stage 10. I bought stuff I hadn't seen before to examine them, but found nothing useful. Basically what I'm saying is, once you get a hold of a piece of equipment that's better, just get rid of the old stuff. It's not worth holding on to sell it. You have 5 options with your weapons and armor. Use, equip, examine, discard, or trade. These are pretty self-explanatory. You use items at appropriate times, equip your weapons or armor, examine your equipment to determine what's better and who can use it, discard shit you don't need, and trade shit between your characters. The reason I bring this up is because the controls of this game are so stiff that eventually you just jam buttons to move on. But to drop items, which you'll be doing fucking constantly by the way, it has you select the item, select discard, then ask you if you're sure, and it defaults to no, so if you're just trying to push through the menus, you're going to select no by accident. With the exception of that, there really are no accidental button presses when you're navigating the menus. There's always like a little delay before you can continue, even when you're exiting a menu to get into another one. And you can't just tap the button either, you have to jam it down every time. This makes the password system an even bigger pain in my ass. Fuck! Why is this here? Anyway, you collect all 7 ruby artifacts and take them to the Hermit, who teleports you to the final stage where you face the Serpent. Except he doesn't! He sends you to level 14 and the Serpent's on level 16! I already have all the ruby artifacts! What the fuck else am I supposed to do? There are 2 more combat spells you get called Phalanx and Crystallize. You'd think because the game makes you get these before you face the Serpent that they're incredibly badass. Phalanx deals damage to 3 opponents, and Crystallize temporarily stops the entire enemy party from attacking. But, to the surprise of absolutely no one, they totally suck and are completely useless. So you finally make it to the final level and find it a huge labyrinth of walls and traps. It turns out all the messages you saw throughout the game with the green text that mentioned victory formed a map to get you to the Serpent, dragon. Was the name of the game just an afterthought? The directions lead you down a corridor that attempts to psych you out before leading you directly to the Serpent. It has a sweeping attack, but it doesn't attack very often, so just whack it around while your magicians use healing spells, and it'll go down easily, gaining you 5,000 experience and 5,000 gold, and triggering a seizure-inducing effect that shakes the whole screen. You then get passwords for your characters as they were when you finished the game. You don't get a game password, but then any game password will work with them. But be warned, they'll spawn with no equipment. They still have all your gold and the experience level you were at for the game password you use, but they won't have any experience, or the gold you got from killing the Serpent, which doesn't matter anyway because this is literally the only time you would actually need gold because your characters are buck-ass naked. Don't worry though, despite the gold amount being glitched to fucking back, you do still have it all. Your characters keep the stats they had when you beat the game, but the game password is what dictates their experience level, so you can proceed to level them and max out their stats. It probably won't matter much being your stats max out at 20 and your HP and MP max out at 31, so you're probably pretty close to that anyway. Just hope you don't get attacked before you can get to an armory. If your pride demands not letting the game call you a coward for running away, you have to deal with this shit!